Good afternoon, and we are here with another session of Shakti Dreams Awaken. I'd like you to take this time, if you haven't already, click the like button, subscribe to the channel so that we can get more viewers, and hit the bell for notifications so that you will be notified when videos are uploaded to the YouTube system. In doing the last segment about Roe v. Wade, I know that it wasn't a long one. I did that on purpose. The algorithm for YouTube is one that if you do it too long, you lose people's interest, and the AI doesn't pick it up the way it's supposed to. But this is the type of information that we need to develop a little bit longer, a little bit more, I should say. So this is part 2. There may need to be a part 3. This is going to be an ongoing thing in between other videos. But the thing that I thought was very interesting, last Sunday, I was reading an article. It was in Newsweek. One of them was in Newsweek, another one was a different place. And what it talked about is this: when you look at the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade, the one that overturned Roe, which is Dobbs, you'll find in the text of the opinion that Clarence Thomas has said, in his opinion, part of his opinion, is saying that we should look at other areas that kind of encompass Roe v. Wade. We should look at the same-sex marriage, that maybe the court should look back at contraceptives, because that goes along with Roe v. Wade. And he didn't specifically say interracial marriages, but along those lines, a lot of legal scholars are looking at it and saying, you're opening up a Pandora's box, that it's going to be more than one thing that you're going to wind up looking at. And one of those things could be outlawing interracial marriage. Now, I don't know if he would be amenable to that, since he is married to a Caucasian woman. So, but stranger things have happened. So what I say to the people that are viewing this channel is, no one believed that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. They just thought it couldn't be possible after 50 years that you would not do such a thing. But after 50 years, it was done. What you have to take into consideration is this too. Look at it from this point. Roe v. Wade gave women the right over their bodies to say they can decide when to have a baby, when not to have a baby. They had the decision over certain parts of their reproductive life. Now the Dobbs decision is saying no more. We decide for you when life is life, what we want you to do, when you want to do it. For some of you who, and I can't say certain things because then they'll pull the channel, but for some of you who were okay with the Jabberwocky, and it was okay for you to do so, and that was your choice, some people were not. There was a big fight. And the problem is, if you take away the right to one segment of the population to say, oh, well, you can't do whatever you want to do with your body anymore, who's to say it's not going to go to say, well, you have to do those other things too? That you should do what I tell you to do because I think it's best for you to do, not what you think is best for yourself. So you have to be careful that way too. These are things that are happening. I tell people, you may say, well, I'm not of childbearing age anymore. I don't really care about this situation. And that might be true. It may not affect you directly, but there's other ways it can affect you. So don't sleep on the fact that this decision may have greater implications to it. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at The Handmaid's Tale on Netflix. But if you haven't looked at it, I would suggest you take a look at that Handmaid's Tale. Because this looks like part of a puzzle, a piece to a puzzle, where if you saw that movie, or that series, I should say, you would see that this is something that could possibly happen. Things are leading up to take away certain rights that women have. And although the women that this particular issue affects, predominantly it's not us, it still affects low-income women of all walks of life. It is something that we should take a look at. If you look at The Handmaid's Tale, or you've looked at it and you want to comment on what you've seen and some of the patterns, be my guest. Comment below. Let me know what you're seeing. Because remember, and my girlfriend pointed out to me, Joanne pointed out to me, in The Handmaid's Tale, the things that occurred did not happen overnight. It happened over time. And when it did happen, and when it finally hit ahead, people had to run for the hills to freedom, wherever that was. They had to run and leave the country so that they could be free from the tyranny that they were under. So I say, please take a look at that, because the religious right is trying to enact, I should say, that thing here. That's how I see it anyway. This is my opinion. Well, one of the good things I will say that has been happening, when I talked about the trigger laws the last time, I realized that the lower courts in the different states, I guess they weren't sleeping at all. They figured, hey, we got to do something here. So some of the judges in different states, like Kentucky, have decided, I'm going to put a restraining order to stop some of these trigger laws from happening. Now, the trigger laws, for those who don't understand it, the trigger law is, there were laws on the books before Roe v. Wade that were not repealed, meaning these laws were against abortions in some way, form, or fashion. Some of them was totally against abortion, and some of them were just different weeks you couldn't do an abortion after a certain time. Texas was one of those states. So what we're finding is happening is Texas, no judge that I've seen so far has said, I'm going to do a restraining order. So Texas is out of luck. They still cannot have an abortion in Texas that I've seen so far. But so what is happening, or what is happening right now is women are running to different states, trying to get the abortions that they thought they could get in their home state. And the home state meaning what state they live in. So right now, let's say for Texas, people are running from Texas to New Mexico. And the article I was reading in, I'm not sure if it's a Newsweek, but I'll tell you in a minute. But the article I was reading, it stated that New Mexico did not have a lot of abortions in the state. They didn't really have a lot. But as a result of this, they're being swamped with people from Texas and other surrounding states that are now unable to get it in their home state, running to New Mexico to get it done. So This is one of the realities that's happening. Now, Florida, where I'm at right now, DeSantis had it at 15 weeks. That was the trigger law that was basically coming into effect. You couldn't do it after 15 weeks. It was normally 24 weeks. You had a longer period of time. He brought it down to 15. We had a judge in Tallahassee decide, our state constitution says you have a right to privacy. Women has a right to privacy. And so that right to privacy is in the state constitution. So what he did is say, based on that right of privacy, you cannot do this. You cannot invoke that law right now. So he put a temporary restraining order on the trigger law. So for right now, up to 24 weeks, abortions are still going on in Florida. But you have, because I have the Newsweek article here, and I'll probably share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can share the screen. All right, I'm sharing this one with you. All right, here we go. This is the Newsweek article, and it says that there's 13 states that had the trigger laws that immediately banned all or most abortions when Roe was overturned was Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. So these states was just banned as soon as Roe came off the books. But as I told you, Kentucky, judge in Kentucky has allowed it. They said probably for another 2 months. They're not sure how much it's going to, how much it will last. But there are 16 states, including the District of Columbia, that have laws that protect the right of abortion. And those were Colorado, New Jersey, Oregon, Vermont, the District of Columbia. They have a codified right to an abortion throughout pregnancy without state interference. It's codified for them. So that's in their laws. So the state now in those states, even though Roe v. Wade says no more abortions, each state can still decide what to do. So those states, you'll still, unless they change it, will be allowed to still have abortions. All right, and then there's 12 states that actually permit abortion prior to fetal viability. Now, what that means, fetal viability, is if the child could survive outside the womb. And this is where the debate comes. I understand that life should be sort of from conception, and it is sort of, is sort of from the conception, cells are growing, things of that nature. But the fetus cannot survive without the mother outside of the womb until the lungs and certain other vital organs are developed. And even when you have premature babies, they have to go into an incubator and fight to stay alive. And if the lungs haven't been developed enough, or the heart and those, the brain, every organ has to be working together. If it's not viable, then that means that fetus will not live outside the womb. So when necessary to protect life or the health of the pregnant person, these 12 states say abortion is permitted. And that is California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, Rhode Island, and Washington. So we still have some states that will allow the protection of the mother. Because what you'll find with this Roe v. Wade debate, and now Dobbs did what it did, is that you have some men that do not understand that you should make an exception for rape. They're like, whether you got raped or not, you should have the child. That first of all, the psychological damage that happens for a woman. And then you have to see that child, and you're talking about, oh, give up the child for adoption. When the adoptive parents really find out where that child came from, you think they really want that child? I said, let's be real. Genetics plays a role in a lot of things. And sometimes the behavior of bloodline doesn't go away with just the environment. It doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't go away with just the environment. You'll find some people who were born after being raped, like, of a rape situation. It's not a nice thing. So I'm not saying it always happens that way, but sometimes it's just really not nice. I know a couple of people, and those guys are not nice to women. They were born from violence, and they're not nice to women. So why do we think, and they were born out of that type of scenario. They weren't beat up and they weren't abused growing up, but they still have it in them that they don't treat women correctly. So if that's the case, that means there's something more to this. There's something more to just saying, well, it's just environment and nurturing. It is also your genes. You have some genetic defects, you have some genetic things that pass through that you just don't get rid of that easily. So I would say if we think that it's going to stop here with Roe, don't sleep. I believe this is a Pandora's box that was opened that is not going to be shut. They've already had a case dealing with that the Supreme Court talked about with religion. Now, they didn't go after and say that you don't have your religious freedom anymore. This actually was something that helped religious organizations, because it was said that religious institutions could still get state funds. They didn't overturn it. And you hear that dog in the background. So, but I will say to you that what will happen in the future is that you have to be very careful who you put in office. And some people are very good actors. They tell you one thing and they do something different. So I will continue this with the next chapter. This was just a short prelude, but I'll just tell you, interracial marriage might come next. Sodomy is not off the books. So when you say you have a gay relationship or a homosexual relationship, sodomy didn't come off the books. If they make it illegal, yeah, they will have to go underground again, because it will not be off the books. And those people who are not tolerant will enforce that law. So that is something that you want to think about. I saw an article where a lot of couples are starting to take some contingency plans because they have children, and they're making contingency plans for that just in case it happens next. Because he did mention that certain things can be overturned. So like, subscribe, share this channel. We'll have more things coming quickly. And the next one won't be on rule, it will be on relationships, because I'm hearing some things that people need to understand. And we're going to go through those things. All right. Have a good one, and peace.